Seahawks Rumors Mailbag coming up in just a few moments from right now. But before we do, we want to make sure that you can be a part of our next mailbag here on the channel. The only way to do so is by being an award-winning subscriber to Seahawks Today. Go to youtube.com/SeahawksTV. And in our community tab, each week we ask for your questions and comments for the mailbag. That's where you can submit yours. And use that hashtag Seahawks for your chance to get on the show. Subscribe now, youtube.com/SeahawksTV, so you can be a part of our next mailbag. Tyler Jones here with you. Appreciate you joining us. It is a mailbag edition of Seahawks Today. You have questions. I have answers. Let's get to it. Our first question this week in the inbox, where we will start, is from Pacific Northwest. Pacific Northwest wants to know, who wins the Super Bowl first, Pete Carroll or Russell Wilson? If Pete wins, do we trust him more, or what does it do for his legacy? If Russ wins, do we stay mad at the Seahawks organization for not working things out? A lot to dissect there, so let's go through it one at a time. Who wins the Super Bowl first, Pete or Russ? Well, I hate to say it, but Russell Wilson right now, the Denver Broncos, are much better off than what this Seattle roster looks like right now. But they're in the toughest division in football, the AFC West right now. And the Kansas City Chiefs have been to, 4 straight AFC championship games? So the Broncos are a lot better roster and a lot closer to a Super Bowl than Seattle is right now. But their pathway is going to be tough for a while. So I want to say neither. I don't see either one winning a Super Bowl anytime soon. But I would lean towards Russell Wilson to have the edge there as far as that goes. Now, the other part of that question, if Pete wins, do we trust him more, or what does it do for his legacy? If Pete wins a Super Bowl, yeah, you trust him more. He'd be a 2-time Super Bowl head coach. And did it without his franchise quarterback? Yeah, that would be impressive. That would do a lot for his legacy. And I think Pete Carroll all of a sudden would be talked about as one of the all-time great head coaches in this league. So that would do a lot. The other question, if Russ wins, do we stay mad at the Seahawks organization for not working things out? Yeah, I think so. I think that's going to be one that would really hurt if you see Russell Wilson win a Super Bowl with the Denver Broncos. If the Seahawks aren't playing in said Super Bowl, I would guess there's a pretty good chance you would probably still be rooting for Russell Wilson in that Super Bowl. But nonetheless, it would hurt. It would sting a bit if he does win one with Denver, that's for sure. I want to hear from you guys. This is a great question. I want to hear now what you guys think about this. Who wins the Super Bowl first? It's our pinned comment today. Pete Carroll or Russell Wilson? Type PC for Pete Carroll. Type RW for Russell Wilson. You're going to get an ad break. Take advantage of it. While the ad's playing, get your votes in. Tell us who you think wins the Super Bowl first, Pete Carroll or Russell Wilson. Next question from the inbox comes from Nicholas. Nicholas wants to know, using the hashtag Papa Jones again, trying to get that thing working. I'm nobody's papa. Goodness. Anyways, not yet anyway. What's our long-term answer at quarterback? Ooh. I think we're all trying to figure that out, right? You look at the depth chart right now. It's not any of these guys. I can tell you that right now. Is it somebody in the draft like Bryce Young or C.J. Stroud? Maybe there. It's not Drew Lock, Geno Smith, or Jacob Eason. I can tell you that much. Those guys are placeholders until next year, and you can pretty much guarantee the Seahawks will be drafting a quarterback in the first round next year. Now, what their draft spot will be and what quarterbacks will be available, that remains to be seen. But it's not one of these three guys. I would lean towards it's somebody in next year's draft, but a very good question there. Amin1 wants to know, will Drew Lock play decently? How do you define decently? I want to know that. It kind of reminds me of the question that people ask of what is pornography, but you know it when you see it type of ordeal. I think that's the type of thing with Drew Lock here that we're asking ourselves. Well, I mean, I guess I could tell by if they're winning games. I mean, does he play decently? I'll put it this way. Drew Lock will not do enough to be the starting quarterback next year. I don't even know if he's going to make it through the entire season. If Geno Smith is going to be the guy at some point, or Who knows if they turn to Jacob Eason, bring in another quarterback, whatever. All sorts of different possibilities. But Drew Lock is not good enough. And so I think decently would imply come back for a second year, another go at this. So I'll say no, he doesn't play decently. He doesn't do enough to get that job back next year. Our mailbag is presented by BetUS. BetUS is the leader in sports betting, and right now they are letting you bet on all sorts of stuff. NFL prop bets to get you ready for the upcoming season, also the NBA playoffs, and the easiest way to do so is by going to chatsports.com/bet. And when you use the promo code Seahawks125, you're going to get a 125% deposit bonus. Well, Tyler, what does that mean? If you put $100 down, they're going to give you $125 to spend for free. Great value, right? Here's the title odds for the NBA Finals, by the way. The Golden State Warriors, your odds-on favorites at plus 125. The Miami Heat at plus 250. Boston at plus 300. The Mavs at plus 575. I got to tell you, I like the value on the Boston Celtics here. I know that they lost game one against the Miami Heat, but I think the Celtics have the best chance of taking down Golden State. They're the most suited team to do so here. Golden State, they're the favorites, and rightfully so, but you want to make money, right? I mean, you got to take long shot bets of some sorts. I would put my money down on Boston if I'm trying to get a return on my investment here. Chatsports.com/bet, promo code Seahawks125 at checkout. Gruskers wants to know all the and hawing about the quarterback situation. Why not just go get Gardner Minshew? Well, I like Gardner Minshew. He's a great story, right? The mustache, former 7th-round pick, a guy that was doubted in college, went from East Carolina to Washington State, played under Mike Leach and such. He would be pretty popular, I think, in Seattle, returning to a state where he was very successful in college ball. But, when you look at it, Gardner Minshew is one of the best backup quarterbacks in the NFL. And I cannot emphasize the value of a good backup quarterback in this league. Think about this, okay? Gardner Minshew, if you put him on any team in the NFL and said you got to start 1 to 2 games because the starter's out, you'd feel pretty good. Like, hey, you're not going to skip a beat. Like Jeff Garcia, maybe. Or, I don't know, Ryan Fitzpatrick. Kind of that group of guys. And he doesn't cost a whole lot. And so, with that, because he's not costing Philly, because he knows his role, the price tag is probably actually going to be a little high for Gardner Minshew, believe it or not. I like Gardner, but he's not anything more than a backup. And he'll be a great backup in this league for a long time. But I'm not trading for Gardner Minshew. What do you guys think? Should the Seahawks trade for Gardner Minshew? Should they bring Minshew Mania to Seattle? I think he'd fit right in. That stash would be pretty popular. Type Y for yes. Type in for no if you think the Seahawks should trade for Gardner Minshew. Y for yes, in for no. Jace Hartford wants to know, what are the chances that Kenneth Walker wins Offensive Rookie of the Year? And also, I have high hopes for Boye Mafe getting over 10 sacks. Thoughts? Let's start out with Kenneth Walker III. Kenneth Walker was terrific in college. 18 touchdowns last year for Michigan State was unbelievable. And I have said many times, and I will die on this hill, that Kenneth Walker III, day one, is the best running back on the Seahawks roster. I don't know if Pete Carroll and company feel that way. I think that he would be an easy pick for Rookie of the Year if we knew right out of the gates that he was going to start game one. I would start him game one. I think he should be your number one running back, but I don't know if Seattle feels the same way. And he'll be splitting reps with none other than Rashad Penny. So with that being said, I would like him to start and be a contender there, but I don't know if he's going to get enough carries. Boye Mafe, 10 sacks is pretty high considering last year in college he had 7 sacks. Boye Mafe is going to be a really good player in this league, but let's lower the bar a little bit. 10 sacks, let's start with, 4 or 5, and then work our way up from there. I mean, he's a Mafe boss, right? He's going to be fun. and he's still got to win a starting job, which right now on the depth chart, he's still borderline. Hasn't secured that spot yet, but I like Boye Mafe. He was a good pick. Both these guys going to have fun careers, but let's settle down a little bit on the expectations. They'll get there, trust me. Next question from Landon. Landon wants to know, at the end of the season, where do you think our offense will rank in scoring? Well, that's a very good question, and I have some numbers for you in just a moment on this. But before we do, I want to hear from you guys. Who's your favorite Seahawks offensive player? That got me thinking with the offense and the new faces and new places involved here with Russell Wilson gone. Who is your favorite offensive player now? Who's the guy you're rooting for? Tell me in the comments section who your favorite is. And then when we come back in just a second, I'm going to go over some of these numbers to kind of put this in perspective. So, here's what I'm looking at, folks. When we were asked about in that question, scoring, I'll look at the points per game statistic. And when you rank offensive numbers, the only one that matters is the points per game statistic, because that's ultimately what decides wins and losses. The Cowboys were first in the league last year at 31.2 points per game. And the Chargers, as you can see, fifth, 27.9. You get down to the Seahawks, who were 16th last year at 23.2. And that was with Russell Wilson for most of the season there. So, middle of the pack as is. To me, I'm looking at this situation and I don't know, Jim. I don't feel good about the Seahawks being in the upper half. If you look around the National Football League, how many great quarterbacks and great weapons there are. What was there, like 7 wide receivers picked in the first round of this draft? It's not just the quarterbacks that are playing at an all-time level right now in the NFL. It's all the skill position players. And the Seahawks, although they have 2 really good receivers, they have a new running game, an offensive line that is very young, still trying to establish themselves, and so many holes to fill there. I think they're going to be in the bottom half, if you ask me. I think that they're going to be much improved later on in the season, but those numbers there, I think asking them to put up 30 points a game is a little bit too much to ask of this offense right now. But they will be better by the end of the year, I can tell you that much. Good question. And the next one comes from Lincoln. Lincoln wants to know, how do you think Metcalf and Lockett will do without Russell Wilson? Well, I got to tell you, I think those guys, their numbers aren't going to drop off that much. When you're a star player in this league, you're still going to deliver at a high level no matter what. I'm not worried about those two. And I'm not worried about Noah Fant either. It's the other guys, when you move on down, the Eskridges of the world and those guys, how much production can they have with not playing with an elite quarterback anymore? I'm not worried about DK or Tyler. I'm worried about the other down guys that won't be playing with an elite quarterback, what their numbers will do. But good question. I think those guys will be just fine this year. We are covering the Seahawks every day on this channel. Seahawks Today, powered by Chat Sports. And we got to make sure you're subscribed so you never miss a moment of Seahawks Today. The easiest way to do so, hit the red sub button or go to youtube.com/SeahawksTV. Turn those notifications on, and you will be the first to know when we have new content for you. It's every day. Best part about it, it's free. Subscribe now. Tell all your friends. And if you're a true Seahawks fan, you got to be watching this channel. I'm telling you right now, you don't want to miss a moment of what we're bringing to you. We love it. We know you love it. Be a part of it. And never miss a moment of Seahawks Today. YouTube.com/SeahawksTV. Last question from Andrew. Andrew wants to know, who's going to be the starting cornerbacks? Good question, Andrew. And the Seahawks had a lot of changes when it came to the cornerback position this offseason. Let's look at the defensive back depth chart here. As you can see, the safety spots stay the same with Diggs and Adams. But Trey Brown and Sidney Jones should be your starters. And Justin Coleman is listed as that nickel corner right now. But Kobe Bryant, I would expect, is going to move up pretty quickly through the depth chart. I could see him being that nickel corner pretty fast. Artie Burns, I think, is going to stay behind. Tariq Woolen is a project. I don't know how much time that we see him on the field necessarily this year, but over time, I see him competing for a starting role eventually next year. But that's where I see things right now. But don't be surprised that Kobe Bryant, who Bleacher Report earlier this week said they believe he's going to be one of the surprise rookies in the NFL. I think Kobe Bryant will make some noise and eventually work his way by the halfway point, no later, to be that starting nickel corner. So there you have it. That's our mailbag for this week. We do this each and every week, but you got to be subscribed to be a part of the mailbag. So check us out. Make sure you're subscribed to the channel, our community tab. Use that hashtag Seahawks to be a part of our next Seahawks mailbag here on Seahawks Today.